All for one.
And one for all.
On guard!
One for all. I have the heart of a musketeer.
On guard!
You're listening to the True Musketeers podcast, brought to you by Fencing Club Trekanten, the largest and oldest fencing club in Denmark. Welcome to the True Musketeers podcast and the very first episode. I'm your host, Thijs Andersen Samsi, and with me today I have a very special guest. It's the foil coach of the club. It's my very good friend, Mr. Malte Trier Mørch. Welcome to the show, Malte.
Hi, everyone.
So good to have you on the show.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It feels great to sit here with you and doing my very, very first podcast ever. I've been on television and stuff many times, but this is definitely my first podcast. So
yeah, I mean, and truth be told, mine as well. So this is a brand new medium that we are doing. So I guess the question is, we're both Danish, right? Now speaking English.
Yeah.
And I guess good reason for that, since the fencing market, so to speak, is a little smaller in Denmark.
That's true. The fencing community in Denmark is not very big. I think we're like 1,600?
Yeah, I think so, approximately.
In the entire country?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a small community, and hence doing a podcast in Danish, obviously going to be hugely popular for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not going to break any barriers on the international scene, I guess.
I think not. No. I don't think there are that many people who will understand Danish.
So strange times we're living in currently, and a lot of things is happening. Just coming out of COVID, or at least a lot of the world is coming out of COVID. It's been with the challenging travel, canceled the competition, stuff like that. But there's another thing going on right now. We just thought we were back on the scene. How is your perception of that?
Obviously, it's immensely frustrating that we're in this situation now with the crisis in the Ukraine, or the war in Ukraine, I should probably say. We have just gone through 2 seasons that have been absolutely amputated by COVID, especially that year from the spring of 2020, and then a year from that was absolutely horrible. And then just last spring, in April 2021, we started traveling again a little bit. Actually, it was in March. We were in Doha for the first competition. So I'm mainly speaking as a foil coach, I should say. So my world kind of started up again in March 2021. And we did that, and then we did the Olympic zone qualification in Spain, and but it kind of marked a time where we thought that things would get better, and it kind of did. And then, of course, the Omicron variant hit the world this winter, or I think it was around December, I think, and we were back in lockdown. So several competitions have been canceled, and like men's foil fencing, they've been doing just two events in the entire season. So we've hardly been fencing. There was the one in Paris in January, and I just got home from Cairo last week. So that's it.
As you said, the whole community is kind of on standby, and everything. Everybody, I think, has been looking forward to going into the competition circuit. At least those that are active. The club has been struggling. I know worldwide with the lockdown and all the restriction there. But as you mentioned, the war on Ukraine right now is setting. Is disrupting, I guess, what we thought were a re-entry into normality.
Yeah. Especially again for men's foil, because we usually have a World Cup in St. Petersburg in late April, and that has of course been canceled now as well. So we're looking forward to that event and really playing for it. And now that's had a war broken out in any other country in the world, and it will probably not have been an issue, but obviously we can't go to Russia right now.
No.
So I know there are a few fencers. There was a EP World Cup in Sochi, so that was just before the war, I think.
And maybe just setting the scene there, because we might have somebody that will listen to this podcast and maybe not, too involved in fencing. Maybe they are fencers, but haven't really been fencers for a long time and know the dynamics of fencing. But the truth is that the International Fencing Federation was led by, or is, he's on pause now, led by Russian for a long time.
Yep.
And obviously that's posed some challenges here. I think one of the good things, and it's not a good thing, but it needs somebody was taking a stand, and that was the International Olympic Committee, kind of encouraging all the sports association, federation, stuff like that to take action. And we've been waiting in the fencing world, obviously, because this has, an impact on the season and all the competitions as well. But also to see, what would the International Fencing Federation do now that there's a Russian, high-placed Russian, I should say, leading the fencing federation.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the president of the International Fencing Federation is Alisher Usmanov, who is, I think, on the Forbes list, he's like the 28th wealthiest man in the world. He earned a lot of. He was one of the first to buy Facebook stocks, and I believe he had a past in Gazprom, the Russian gas company. So he's definitely one of the so-called Russian oligarchs, and has actually been in the media a lot lately because his humongous yacht was impounded in Germany somewhere. So a huge yacht, like with the biggest swimming pool in the world, in a private yacht, and like 2 helipads and whatever. Well, basically the kind of boat that I want. But anyway.
Me too, definitely.
So he's been in the media a lot. And so, of course, now he stepped back temporarily as the president of the federation. And, of course, it leaves some kind of a power vacuum. But the thing is that fencing has been heavily influenced by Russians for a very long time. And so, therefore, it's probably a little difficult for the FIE to really, put up a strong stance against the war in Ukraine, I think.
Yeah, but at least I saw the announcement from the FIE, and they were really just telling everybody that they enforced the IOC decision and went ahead and moved all the competitions from Russia and Belarus. So maybe not a stance, but just at least an implementation of the EOC guidelines. And I think we saw that for the national federation in Denmark locally as well, those just encouraging all the smaller associations to enforce the IOC. So definitely, strange times indeed.
Strange times. And we must also remember the fact that Alisher Usmanov has put in a lot of money in fencing over the past many years, and I'm pretty sure that that money is probably not gonna flow as much now as it used to. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the financial situation is like in the FIE now, I think.
Definitely. I mean, at least from my perspective, being in the sport for many, many years, it seems that under his leadership, though, fencing has been very visible in the media. At least, now we can stream. Obviously, technology has something to do with it. Hence, we're doing a podcast now. It's just very visible. So every competition is covered with a live stream to YouTube and stuff like that. Something that we haven't seen before. And again, obviously moving into a very technology and social media oriented world that also had an impact, but the money is there and has been there for the bigger competitions to actually do something.
It's true, but I think that when he took over, it was also a different time. Like there would, live streaming something live on the internet was more difficult back then. Like the bandwidth was probably not that great back then. I'm sure like René Rock would probably love to do live stream and stuff, but it was just a technical challenge. So you were really just down to hoping that Eurosport would prioritize the World Championship and the Olympics enough that you could actually see some fencing, like maybe twice a year if you were lucky, and then a little bit on YouTube. But that was basically it. So it's true that his money probably helped with that, but I also think it was just a different time.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, again, with the live stream and stuff and technology, circling back, we definitely did something recently as well, because again, the fencing community in Denmark is quite small, but over the last couple of years, we have been live streaming from our bigger events. Also, last time we did a commentary as well.
Yeah.
Just circling back, so you saw it on Eurosport, and you were lucky if it was there. You were really lucky if it had commentary as well.
Yeah.
So it's not been as visible, but everybody is kind of doing things since technology is available for doing that at a low cost actually. So definitely changed the game for a lot of sports, not only fencing, but and you have to be on the forefront to just be visible again in this space. So it's just a different competition, but definitely, things has changed in every sense of that word. Circling back maybe to fill in the listeners on your personal journey in the fencing world, how did you get started? Get involved at least and stuck with fencing as a sport?
Well, it's a great question. I'll try to answer that question as short as I can. But
it's a long journey.
Yes,
it's a long journey. I mean, I know we started, approximately the same time.
Started
some
more or less
30
the same time.
plus years ago.
I found my entry application at home a couple of years ago, and I think it says 1988 on it. So if you guys try and wind back to 1988, it was the year of the Seoul Olympics. So it's just to say it's a long time ago. I think like President Reagan stopped as a president, and it's just to get the listeners to understand how old we are.
And the dust settles.
Yeah. No. So I watched a lot of movies. I really love, everybody who knows me knows that I'm a movie aficionado, but I watch a lot of movies. I love the Three Musketeers and Zorro. There was this show on television called Dick Turpin that I really liked.
Love Dick Turpin.
Was of course Star Wars was a big thing. And I remember as a really 7-year-old kid, I realized that all my heroes, they always ended up in a fencing fight whenever they had to do anything important, like when it came down to the final moment with their adversary, then they had to pull the sword and draw the sword, and then just fence and try and make everything right. And so I thought as a 7-year-old kid, damn, I need to know how to do this, because it's obviously important to know. And I just can't stand in that situation and not know what to do.
It's a good point. But were you inspired by parents or anything other than the movies?
Well, my mother was a very good badminton player. My father was not into sports whatsoever. I've never seen my father watch 2 seconds of sport on television. Like, he did not care. My brother was an excellent ice hockey player. And so, my mom and my brother tried to get me to do ice hockey. I did not like that. I was really bad at ice skating. Well, actually, I was pretty good at ice skating. I never got, a really important part of it. And that was like how to break. So
you ended up in
so I just couldn't stop, and that is obviously a major issue if you want to be an ice hockey player. So that didn't work, and then I picked fencing because of the movies, and then also I wanted to be a little bit difficult. I wanted to choose the most tiny little sport that you could think of. Mm-hmm. And my mom took me very seriously, and she opened the phone book. That was a thing back then. And found out that there was a fencing club 10-minute walk from my home. And so
location.
So that, location. And so that little, youth revolt, that didn't work. And then we got down to fencing club Trekanten. So I've been in this club all my life. And my coach, Marianne Falk Portved, she welcomed me and got me started. And that was basically how I started.
Yeah. I mean, I recognize the story, and again, I had nothing to do with fencing. I mean, family-wise or anything. Yeah, maybe if my ancestry, if we went down the line, somebody would have a sword and possibly fight somebody. But nobody knows that, and nobody told me that story.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just saw the movies again, and I definitely, hence the name of the podcast, right? The Three Musketeers. Is something that we watch, and as you say, right, you're fighting injustice. When you see that, well, you fight it with a sword, right? If you want to save the girl, yep, you fight with a sword, right?
That's true.
So definitely a huge inspiration, and we also see that when there's a movie including some sword fight, we will see a slight intake in new members that wants to try the sport. So it's a major factor just to be on the television and in the media. But then going forward on this, obviously being fencing, being an athlete, but at some point, I guess you switched from being an athlete to being a coach.
Yeah, switch into coaching. So what happened was that the club got into a lot of trouble around like late 90s. I would say 96, 97, sometime around that time. And what happened was that I had this. I remember one day I got off early from high school, and then I thought, well, I'll just bike. We bike a lot in Denmark, by the way. I will just bike to the club and help out because I had nothing else to do that day. And I walk in, and there are like 3 kids. 2 of them are playing hockey, and 1 is getting a lesson from the fencing coach we had at the time. And I was thinking, holy shit, what's going on here? I mean, because I was used to seeing maybe 20 kids working hard. That's how it used to be like when you and I were kids in the club. And then I realized that the coach needed some help running the class. And so I started showing up, and I found out that I was kind of good at it, that the kids actually listened to me, even though sometimes I was just a tiny bit older than they were. But they actually listened to me, and I think it was a lot of fun. And then there was this competition in Sweden. I forget exactly where it was, but that doesn't matter. I was at a competition in Sweden, and we had no coach with us at that competition. And there were several kids that were younger than me at the competition. And between my own fights, I would go over and try and coach and help out. And it worked really well. And several of the kids, they won their bouts and went on and on and on. And so I had a pretty good day. And as I was driving home to Denmark, I was thinking about the whole day and just realizing that I had more fun coaching than fencing myself. So, and then just slowly got more and more involved, and then started to build up the club. So it was actually when I spent most of my time in high school working at the club for free, got no money. And then as I started at the university, I continued working in the club. And actually, like when I finished university, the club had, the youth part of the club had come to a size that could kind of support a salary. And that's basically how it ended up.
And I mean, so it's interesting when you mention, right, not being paid, being kind of voluntary. So, and we recently had a coach visiting from the States, and the situation over there is quite different because there's people get paid. Obviously, it's a profession. It's something you do, and to get paid like a job. But it's just a different ballgame when we are looking at least to Denmark for sure. I know that the Nordic brothers and sisters out there are kind of the same in how we are built. So, I mean, there's not much money in the sport to begin with.
You can say that again.
Exactly. And I mean, the sport or the clubs in Denmark supporting sports of every sort is mostly run by volunteers. I mean, they don't get paid, so there's a different kind of passion about this, because you really, really would like to have. I mean, you are having fun when you're doing this. Otherwise, you would quit since you're not getting paid for it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big difference there. And I guess so. Starting your coaching career in the late teens, right? Just before the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely for myself, I'm kind of late to that game because I just recently started, so for 40 years.
Yeah, you started coaching Sabre actually. What was that, like a year ago? A little bit more than that?
Yeah, so mainly like a year ago, 2 years, and my Sabre career in that context has been fairly short. I think it's 6 years something now.
You started out in Epi.
No, I actually started in foil though.
Oh, you started in foil. Yeah,
I started in foil, so coming to the same club, right? It's a foil club.
That's true. I have pictures of you in full foil gear.
Yeah.
Competitions.
Well, you need to save those. Those are worth money, right?
I think Thijs is happy that we're doing a podcast, so you can't see the pictures.
No, definitely. And we won't share them, obviously. No, it was a good time. And I mean, so, and in my perspective, fencing is fencing. Even though we have 3 different weapons, it's 3, very, very different disciplines, right? They share common base. They share a set of common, almost, rules for the 3 weapons with small differences, but so different in nature and how you approach them, but you still, fight with a sword. And I think just the learning points there for starting, at least I'm responsible for our adult beginners. They don't really care. They can't actually tell the difference. They are just fighting with swords and having fun. And I think that's the most important part also when you're a kid, right? You stick with the sport because it's fun. So it doesn't actually matter which weapon you're starting on.
I was saying, like, the fun part of it is obviously true. I don't disagree with that, but I think also people continue because it's interesting.
Yeah,
I often hear people say, "Oh, the practice needs to be fun all the time," and then you get this image in your head that people need to like run around laughing hysterically all the time, and the coach has to be like almost like a part-time stand-up comedian. And all the games need to be so much fun that, and if fun becomes the primary objective, then sometimes you also get a little bit away from the exercises, and then you say, oh, so if it's not fun, then it's gonna be boring or something. No, I don't think so. There are many other motivating feelings than just having fun. I think like making coaching interesting. Like if you have a point as a coach, if you're trying to make a point about something in fencing, whether it's tactics or whatever it is, if it sounds interesting, like if you're making a good point, people will enjoy the practice. And I think that's true with kids, and it's true with adult beginners, and it's I don't disagree.
No, and that could be a good segue to just talk a little bit of the club and how we are doing things. Obviously different from when the club was founded back in 1929, right? Yeah, so it's rooted in military tradition. And maybe you know the story better than I do. So
I don't know if I do actually.
oh, then we're in trouble.
But we're the oldest fencing club in Denmark, and like we will look this up for the next podcast. We'll go into
definitely
the history
for going into the archives.
Yeah, we'll dig deep for the next podcast. But we're the oldest fencing club in Denmark from 1929, and you're totally right. We used to have a very strong military tradition. One of the first fencing masters in Trekanten was Captain Olsen.
Yeah, so he founded the club, right?
I guess he did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, rumor or history. Yeah. I don't know. Wiki said that.
Yeah, Wikipedia. Yeah. Holy shit. I have a history degree. I should be better at this right now, but
right.
sorry about.
Sorry to put you on the spotlight there.
But he was one of the first fencing masters in Trekanten, maybe the first one. And I just remember as a kid growing up, and it was always about Captain Olsen. And I know I think he passed away in 1982. I think he did, yeah. He didn't die that old for some reason. I think he got cancer. But like I remember starting in the club as a kid, and it was all about this guy, and everyone around me had known him, and he had been this larger-than-life person. And I still meet people, like older people, saying, "Oh, I finished once in trekanten," and then they immediately start talking about this Captain Olsen, and it would have been fun to meet him.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually recently found out that he's been on TV as well, right? He was, I think he was in one scene of a Danish movie at some point.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I think if you look him up, he might be mentioned on IMDb or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't seen the clip. I haven't seen anything. So this is just off the net.
Okay. All right.
So, but again, circling back to what you said about the coaching and having fun, but also doing exercises with a purpose, getting people to listen and stuff like that. So, a lot of the things that, we do in the club, I feel is making the training exciting, in that sense that when you meet up, okay, we follow the same kind of schedule, but the contents change, right? So we kind of make a full development around, what purpose or training or exercise we want to have out of that session, and support that with different exercises. So when you meet, you never really know, how the warm-up will be or how the footwork will be that day, because that just changes. And sometimes, it's more fun than other, but, when people feel that it makes, I guess, a change, or they can see some progress in what they're doing, they kind of stick with that. I mean, the worst thing is just showing up feeling nothing, right? It's the same. It's the same. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's okay that there are exercises that are recurring again and again, because people also need to be proficient in some disciplines. Like, you need to kind of make sure that the ankle joint is really strong in fencing, so that people don't twist their ankle, right? So obviously you want to make some exercises about that most of the time. There are some like classic injuries in fencing. You can do a lot in warm-up and physical training that will kind of try to prevent that. But I also think you're right that there should be at least like an 8-10% difference minimum from practice to practice. So I think it's healthy that people, when they're on their bike, and as I say, we bike a lot in Denmark, when they're on their bike, that they're a little bit unsure about what's going to happen today. There's a little tiny element of surprise all the time, and I think that's a very healthy thing. And it's also, it keeps the coach kind of searching for new exercises and new ways to do stuff, and it kind of forces you into a position where you have to look up stuff. You have to, you go on YouTube, or the club is based in this like wonderful sports area with a lot of different sports. So sometimes I will bike past like beach volleyball, and they will be doing something that looks interesting, and then you can kind of put that into your practice. And I think
yeah, I mean, so inspiration comes everywhere, right? So from different sports, and I know that we have been focused a lot on finding new ways of doing stuff, right? So just getting inspiration and sharing knowledge, I think, is a big thing, especially in a day-to-day kind of job. I say job, but some still voluntary work, but where you just kind of get inspired to do exercises in a different way because you watch one of your colleagues do an exercise a little bit different. And obviously, a lot of times it's just a little different, but it totally changes maybe the perception of the exercise, and you can combine it in so many ways. So yeah,
exactly. And actually, there are a lot of surprises out there. Like, we found that there are a lot of exercises from American football that are really good. Like I'm not an expert on American football. You will not hear me do like an NFL podcast ever, but there are just a lot of elements that are similar for some reason. And people will think, what is he talking about now? But think about it. You have the running back position. They work with a lot of acceleration and de-acceleration. They work on like a low point of gravity, like we do. They need to be aware of their surroundings and what's going on. They change direction all the time. And if that is not similar to fencing, I don't know what. And because football is such a big thing on YouTube, then there are like an unbelievable amount of exercises that you can do that makes sense in fencing that's taken from American football. And like and you watch like wrestling, they have great floor exercises like with hand speed, like and building like upper body strength that you can take stuff from wrestling even. And so going to different sports that at first have no similarities to fencing,
So I mean, I guess I'm just thinking aloud here on I mean, and that's so true for not only just American football, soccer as well. I should say wrestling, a lot of other sports where you do feints, but in those sports, since it's a contact sport, soccer maybe not so much, even though they push and shove, but they implement body feints. We do the same, but maybe not with the body so much that with a weapon. So for people that, when you're coaching somebody or giving them exercises, a lot of times having them understanding, what a feint with a weapon is, you could draw parallels to doing a feint with your body, because that's something people would relate to and understand.
I remember one of the coaches I had when I was in my teens was Boris Flamengo. He often talked about boxing, like how fencing had similarities with boxing. And he was definitely thinking about lightweight boxing. I'm pretty sure. I need to ask him the next time I see him, but I'm pretty sure he meant lightweight boxing, with both the footwork and like feinting, like it, showing that you're gonna hit with the left, but then you go and hit with your right hand instead, stuff like that, and these body feints and just a way of doing it. So yeah, you're definitely right.
Yeah, but maybe just wrapping up. So looking forward, right? So a lot of uncertainty for sure. But what's your schedule for the coming month?
Well, if nothing else get canceled because of different wars and get COVID, and when COVID-22 starts up, I don't know when that happens, but let's just say that the world doesn't get any crazier than it is right now. Well, I have a little tiny thing next weekend. We have the Danish Youth Championship. So that's a very small competition, but I'm going to do that next weekend. Then after that, the first trip abroad might even be like the World Championship in Dubai, the Youth World Cadet Junior World Championship in Dubai. That's in April. And then there are a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen with senior fall right now. We're looking forward to a World Cup in Belgrade. That has been canceled now. You can't even believe how many cancellations, but that's been canceled. Then there's this rumor that the Grand Prix from Turin that was canceled because of COVID, that maybe that will reemerge sometime this spring. So that's something people are talking about, but we haven't seen anything yet. And then this year we're talking about going to the U23 European Championship, which is a unique thing, I think, for European fencing. So there's this U23 event in Tallinn, in Estonia. So we're going to do that for the first time in many, many years. And then looking forward to the European Senior Championship in Antalya in Turkey. And then finally the World Championship in Cairo in July. I don't know who came up with the idea to have the World Championship in July in Cairo, but guys, I really hope the air condition works.
For
I
sure.
I hope the air condition is really at its best. And then after that, I have a vacation, and and then it starts all over again. So I might have forgotten an event or two, but that's basically what my life looks like over the next couple of months.
It sounds busy, and let's see if everything comes together. I guess that's the big unknown. But thank you so much for being on the podcast and being a guest with us today. And wish you all the best for the remaining season.
Thank you.
And hope everything pans out.
Thank you so much.
All right, that music tells me it's time to go. And so if you want to get in touch with us, send us an email at podcast@techhandle.org. You can subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice by searching for the True Musketeers podcast. You can catch this and all episodes on techhandle.org. A big thank you to our guest today, Mr. Malte Trier Mørch, for sharing his story with us. We'll be back with new episodes, but until then, Bye for now.